Ever since I was little, I've been unusually sensitive to the aura of the Yin-Yang world, which has a lot to do with my maternal grandpa's family being in that kind of business for generations. I believe some things can't be explained by science, so I understand them through the concept of the Yin-Yang world. To investigate the bizarre pregnancy case of a female college student in Tang Village, my classmate Haley Evans and I almost lost our souls to the blade of a vengeful spirit. To save us, my twin doll brother even recognized the female ghost as Mom. Now, after Haley Evans and I got married, we encountered her again, and my brother behind her. They were standing together. On the day my mom gave birth, my dad died tragically, and my twin brother wasn't breathing when he was born. My grandparents said my mom and I were bad luck, so my maternal grandparents raised me. When I was 12, my grandpa gave me a handheld doll before he died, saying it was my brother, Damian Blackwood. He told me that we were twins, separated by Yin and Yang, but we had to protect each other. Ever since then, I've always carried this doll with me, feeling my brother's aura from the underworld. One day, I ran into a couple arguing at the university gate. The woman was Tiffany Hayes. "Bo, you gotta believe me. I really didn't mess around," she shouted. "You're coming to me with a big belly saying you didn't? How long has it been since I went to see you?" The man said mercilessly. I couldn't help but interject. "How do you know it's his kid?" This couple was way too dramatic, like they wanted everyone to know. Tiffany Hayes' face changed instantly. "Then whose else could it be?" she retorted. I interrupted them. "Get it checked at the hospital first and show a B-scan report." The next day, Tiffany Hayes handed me a B-scan report in public. "You were right. I'm not pregnant, but my stomach is getting bigger and bigger. What's it got to do with me? Why are you giving me the report?" I said, annoyed. The curious looks from the students around me were unbearable. Haley Evans came over and read the data on the report, word by word. "Ethan Sinclair, you dog." I took Haley Evans and Tiffany Hayes straight back to my grandpa's ancestral shop. "Call that beau of yours over." "Where have you been lately?" I asked, staring at Tiffany Hayes. "I've been at school, and I went to Tang Village last weekend. I remember the room I stayed in at that B&B, the last one," she recalled. My heart skipped a beat. Tiffany Hayes' growing belly was definitely related to that room. Haley Evans followed me to Tang Village, a small village surrounded by mountains and rivers, which has been developing tourism in recent years. The B&B Tiffany Hayes mentioned was called Wanfeng Residence. I checked and found that there had been a murder case at this B&B. Historical reports mentioned that a pregnant wife came to catch her husband cheating, and they argued. Pieces of a shattered mirror pierced her back, her water broke, and she died without anyone opening the door. The murderers fled in a hurry, leaving her to die alone in the hallway. "I want a room." I went straight to the front desk of Wanfeng Residence. The owner was old and his eyes darted around. "ID 1 room or 2? He asked. "2 rooms," Haley Evans replied quickly. "I'm here to find Tiffany Hayes things. Don't mess around," I said to Haley Evans. "What right do you have to stop me from staying? Just book 2 rooms. You can stay in the suite at the end of the 5th floor." "I'm not staying there." Thinking she could stay in the room on the other side of the hallway, I agreed. "You want to stay in the suite at the end?" The owner's eyes flickered. "I don't let people stay in that room. That's because it was the busy season and she had nowhere to stay. You can let me stay there. My family is in this business," I insisted. The owner reluctantly handed us the room keys. "Don't open the door if anyone knocks after 8 p.m. As night deepened, I tossed and turned in bed, unable to fall asleep. The chirping of insects outside had disappeared, leaving only a deep silence. Haley Evans sent me a message on my phone. "What's going on over there?" "Nothing so far." But the message failed to send. There was no signal. I tried to open the door to find Haley Evans, but everything was silent. Even the cicadas of summer had vanished. The temperature in the room dropped sharply, and an icy chill seeped into my bones. "It's coming." As soon as the thought flashed through my mind, cold sweat poured down. An ethereal chant came from the hallway, along with the sound of a sword scraping against the concrete floor, which was terrifying. My twin doll brother seemed to move in my bag. I stuffed my phone into my pocket, gripped the extradition amulet and the tools next to me. But even though I had been influenced by my grandpa, my ability to deal with vengeful spirits seemed weak. The chanting became clearer, almost right outside my door. Suddenly, the door slowly opened, and a woman in a long red dress walked in, dragging a long silver sword. It was the woman who had died that year. Her back and shoulders were covered with shards of mirror, and 2 fruit knives were stuck in her abdomen. The original light-colored dress had been stained red with blood, and you couldn't see its original color. Her bulging belly was like that of a pregnant wife in legends. She dragged her sword and walked towards me with a sneer. When she passed the full-length mirror in the entrance, she smiled strangely at the mirror, then raised her sword to stab me. At the critical moment, I pinched the yellow talisman and chanted the Taoist 9-word mantra, Lin Bing Dojura Jiejun Lia Chen Xing Ding, Rin, Pyo, To, Sha, Kai, Jin, Retsu, Zai Zen Freeze. The yellow talisman burned instantly. The female ghost was frozen in place and let out a hoarse roar, as if it came from the depths of hell. She's actually trying to catch me. The doll brother I carried with me also trembled violently. Unfortunately, I had underestimated the danger of what Tiffany Hayes had provoked. I had only drawn ordinary extradition talismans, which could not subdue this evil spirit. Before long, the female ghost twisted her body again and approached me with her sword. The once spacious suite now seemed so small, and I was in constant danger as I dodged. Seizing an opportunity, I rushed out the door and ran into the hallway. The woman in red followed closely behind, wielding her blade. In the dim light, I ran wildly, trying to escape, but found that no matter how I ran, I would eventually return to the end of the hallway, a ghost wall. I had to enter a room. I knocked urgently on the door of a guest room, but no one answered. The female ghost was getting closer and closer, so I could only run and knock on doors, but no one responded. Blood stained the hallway red, and the woman in red walked towards me with a sneer. Knock, and see if anyone will open the door. Don't open the door if anyone knocks after 8 p.m. The owner's instructions echoed in my ears. Not knowing if it was about this female ghost's life or afterlife, I saw Haley Evans' room number. Although I didn't want to involve her, she was my only hope. Haley Evans, open the door. It's Ethan Sinclair. I shouted loudly. The room was silent, and my heart sank. After a moment, Haley Evans' timid voice came from inside the room. Are you really Ethan Sinclair? What proof do you have? I told you not to come, but you insisted, and now you're scared like this. I was anxious and lost patience. The female ghost had a strange smile on her face, as if mocking my embarrassment. She slowed down and slowly approached me. Haley Evans, you won't see me if I die. You're always sharp-tongued with me at school. Do you like me? The aura inside the door obviously stagnated, and the female ghost's pressure was getting closer and closer. I desperately pounded on the door. Suddenly, the door creaked open, and I almost rushed in through the crack. The next second, I heard Haley Evans shouting in my ear, Ethan Sinclair. I opened the door. Where are you? Don't scare me. Where are you? I suddenly sat up in bed, soaked in cold sweat. Looking around, the figure of the woman in red was nowhere to be seen. Could everything just now have been a nightmare? I couldn't fall asleep anymore and stayed awake until dawn. When the sun had fully risen, I walked out of the room, with dark circles under my eyes, and knocked on Haley Evans' door. The gray-haired owner was cleaning the rooms upstairs. I noticed that, apart from Haley Evans' door being closed, all the other rooms were open, with white bedding piled on the cleaning cart. Everyone else had checked out except for Haley Evans and me. Haley Evans opened the door, also with heavy dark circles under her eyes, looking angry. What the heck were you doing last night? You kept knocking on my door, and when I opened it, you were gone. The guests who checked out said their doors were knocked on last night, the gray-haired owner said quietly from the side. My face turned pale, and a chill ran from the soles of my feet to the top of my head. Last night, I really did knock on all the doors in the hallway. That female ghost wasn't a dream. I composed myself, pulled Haley Evans into her room, and told her what had happened last night. You're saying you really knocked on my door last night? And there was a female ghost in red chasing you? Haley Evans asked in disbelief. Yeah. Are you messing with me again? When I knocked on the door last night, I asked you if you liked me. Should we leave this place? Tiffany Hayes didn't encounter any vengeful spirits when she stayed here. Could it be chasing you because it knows why you came? Haley Evans suggested. You check out and leave. I'll stay another night and see what happens. If the people who stayed here before weren't chased, then I might not be able to escape even if I leave, I said, shaking my head. Ethan Sinclair, are you crazy? You still want to stay? Tiffany Hayes got a bizarre pregnancy after staying here, and I get chased. I have to figure out why so I can find a way to deal with this female ghost. I didn't prepare enough before because I didn't think the dirty thing that caused Tiffany Hayes' pregnancy was this dangerous. Then I'm staying here too. I'm not checking out, Haley Evans said firmly. I knew I couldn't persuade her, so I could only agree on a password. It's raining tacos, Ethan's a 0. Seeing her finally smile, I felt a little relieved. If there were any more abnormalities at night, she would open the door when she heard this password. During the day, I locked myself in the room, and according to the booklet and memories left by my maternal grandpa, I drew many 6-armor Yin-Yang talismans and evil-slaying ghost talismans. Haley Evans wanted to help, but I kept her out. In the evening, Haley Evans and I had dinner together, then went back to our respective rooms. I put on the protective robe left by my maternal grandpa, which was covered with various soul spells, and held a peach with sword engraved with ancient runes in my hand. The entire room was covered with 6-armor Yin-Yang talismans. Everything was ready. I turned off the lights, leaned against the wall, and quietly waited for the clock to point to 8 o'clock. At 7:59 p.m., the phone suddenly went black, and I couldn't turn it on no matter how I pressed it. Usually, I would think it was out of power, but this time I knew that the phone still had 80% of its battery. Like last night, the surroundings fell into a strange silence again, and the cicadas and the sound of car wheels disappeared. The sound of the knife tip scraping the ground came from outside the door, and my doll brother began to tremble violently. This time, I took the initiative and opened the door and quickly closed it. At the moment of opening the door, the scraping sound outside stopped abruptly. I knew the female ghost had entered the room, and this room was a trap I had set for her in advance. However, I looked around and didn't see the female ghost in red. When I looked at the full-length mirror in the entrance, I saw the female ghost in red smiling sinisterly at me, but there was no ghost shadow of her in the room. The ghost could actually travel through the mirror world. I had to force her out, into this ghost exorcising room. I started talking loudly to the female ghost in the mirror. Your husband and his mistress killed you together, right? Is it useful to kill me, an innocent person? Why did you make the woman who stayed here before get a bizarre pregnancy? My series of questions stunned the female ghost. After all, there was no longer a human language system in her world. None of you men are good. You all deserve to die. You all deserve to die. I'll stab you the same way he stabbed me, the female ghost roared. So, this was the reason she wanted to kill me, because I was the man staying in this room just like her husband. My child, he's 8 months old. When I went for a checkup, he already had a human form. He should have lived well in this world. Could it be that this female ghost wanted to make the women who stayed there, like Tiffany Hayes, pregnant with bizarre fetuses in order to have her own child born? Before I had time to think about the possibility of this kind of underworld practice, I saw the female ghost give a distorted smile on her blood-stained face in the mirror. She pointed to my waist and abdomen in the mirror and giggled. Then she walked out of the mirror. My child is here. I'm her child. Wasn't she always trying to kill me? Before I had time to think about it, the moment the female ghost walked out of the mirror, I turned on the soul-calling lamp, lit the evil-slaying ghost talisman, waved the peachwood sword, and chanted the ghost exorcising incantation loudly. Dipper stars, breaking evil lights, subduing ghosts and demons, and ordering all to disperse. Break! The female ghost let out a heart-wrenching scream and waved her claws furiously. Supreme Star, responding without stopping. Exorcising evil and binding demons. Protecting life and body, wisdom and clarity, mind and spirit at peace. The 3 souls are eternal, the spirit is without loss. Hurry, hurry, as the law commands. After the ghost exorcising incantation, I immediately chanted the mind-purifying incantation, and the female ghost's movements were obviously slowed down. Last night, I woke up from the bed in the room, but I clearly remembered knocking on all the doors. I was sure that my soul had left my body last night and fought with the female ghost. Now, looking at my body sitting on the chair and leaning against the wall, I was even more convinced of this idea. If the fight failed, the real way to die was not to be cut to death by a long knife, but for the soul to be shattered and unable to return to the body, never to be reborn. Realizing this, I silently chanted the mind-purifying incantation to increase the power of my soul and suppress the female ghost. Her speed slowed down, my movements were more flexible, and I had a chance to survive. The female ghost was suppressed by the mind-purifying incantation and was lying on the ground, struggling to crawl towards me. Between gritted teeth, I saw that her teeth were full of blood. My child. Give me back my child. Ah, I'm going to kill you. I want you to die without a whole body. Looking at her painful appearance, I felt some sympathy for this pregnant woman who was killed by her cheating husband. But she shouldn't stay in the world, let alone hurt innocent people. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. Ethan Sinclair, why didn't you reply to my text message? You didn't reply yesterday either. Damn it. Last night's weird experience distracted me. I forgot to tell Haley Evans that my phone wasn't working. Why did this girl come out on her own? It's past 8 o'clock. She ran out without hesitation. She's more likely to mess things up than help. My mind wandered for a moment. The mind-purifying incantation stopped, and the female ghost pounced on me. I quickly dodged, lit the evil-slaying ghost talisman again, and chanted the mind-purifying incantation, and the female ghost's movements became slow and difficult again. Just as I was thinking about how to completely subdue her, a strange smile bloomed on the female ghost's pale face. She was lying near the entrance, closer to the door. Hee hee, I'm going to catch you soon. I instantly understood her intention, but it was too late to stop her. The female ghost waved her long knife and pounced on the door. The wind brought by the blade pushed the door open. The next second, Haley Evans poked her head in, looking around cautiously, and shouted timidly, Ethan Sinclair, answer me? Where are you? Seeing Haley Evans' body walking into the room, the female ghost in red behind the door raised her long knife and was about to strike. Without thinking too much, I rushed over to block the knife for her. The long knife struck my shoulder. Although the soul body doesn't bleed, the pain made my consciousness a little blurred, and I couldn't concentrate on chanting the incantation. I've caught you, ha ha ha, you adulterous couple. You killed me and my child. I'm going to chop you into mincemeat. Ignoring the pain in my shoulder, I quickly lit the remaining evil-slaying ghost talismans and 6 armor Yin-Yang talismans, and raised them sharply, arranging them into a hexagram array, trapping the female ghost in it. I originally wanted to use the mind-purifying incantation to consume her power and then set up the formation to subdue her, but Haley Evans suddenly broke in, and my soul was injured, so I had to start the formation in advance. Haley Evans couldn't see my weak soul body. She could only see my body sitting in the chair. She shook my body desperately, but there was no reaction, and she was so anxious that tears streamed down her face. I said annoyedly from the side, What are you crying for? I'm not dead yet. But she couldn't hear or see me and the female ghost in the room at all. The female ghost was trapped in the talisman array, wailing in pain. All the talismans on my body had been used up, and even the soul spells on my Taoist robe had been burned, but her screams were still deafening. Baby, mommy is here. Mommy will definitely let you be born. The light of the talisman array gradually dimmed, and the female ghost lay on the ground, hooking her long knife with her claws, twisting her limbs as she crawled towards me. Just as she was dragging her knife closer and closer, the bag under my Taoist robe, containing the puppet brother, began to vibrate violently. It was then that I realized that the child the female ghost was referring to was not me, but Damian Blackwood. I lifted my Taoist robe, opened the zipper of my bag, and took out the puppet brother. Is this your child? I said to the female ghost. The female ghost suddenly calmed down, like a rusty machine, gently nodding her head, one nod at a time. Mom! The puppet brother in my hand actually made a sound, jumping from my hand to my lap and smiling at the red-clothed female ghost. I don't know if it was an illusion, but I actually saw a trace of tears in the female ghost's empty, godless, black pupils without whites. Mom, I'm here. I just went out to play. He's my brother, we've always been together. When Mom wasn't around, he took good care of me, Damian Blackwood's childish voice said. The female ghost squatted down, gently stroking Damian Blackwood's puppet face, and a smile also appeared on the puppet's face. From the moment my maternal grandpa gave me the puppet, I sensed the power of my brother's soul. But seeing the puppet make a sound and walk for the first time still felt incredible to me. Damian Blackwood walked towards me with the unique steps of a puppet, limping and winking playfully. My maternal grandpa said, You are my brother. I will always protect you and not let anything happen to you. After Damian Blackwood finished speaking, he turned and walked towards the red-clothed female ghost and said something to her. After they finished speaking, he was picked up by the red-clothed female ghost. The female ghost kissed him on the forehead, and then she carried him out of the room. The next second, I suddenly woke up from the chair. The zipper of the bag was open, and the puppet lay woodenly on the bed. I picked up the puppet, no longer feeling my brother's soul power. After a night of fighting with the female ghost, when I woke up, it was already bright. After waking up, Haley Evans threw herself into my arms. I originally wanted to blame her for not listening to my advice last night and leaving the room without permission, but seeing her tears wetting my clothes, I couldn't bear to blame her. I knew she was also worried about me. After that, Haley Evans and I stayed for 2 more nights, and nothing strange happened again. The only possibility I could think of was that the female ghost regarded my underworld brother as her unborn child and took Damian Blackwood away. Damian Blackwood must have also done something to make the female ghost no longer obsessed with this room. After returning to school, we found Tiffany Hayes, and her stomach had returned to normal. After that, Haley Evans publicized my legend of bravely fighting evil spirits. Although most people just listened to it as a joke, the business of my maternal grandpa's ancestral Taoist shop became much better. I was busy with both school and the shop. Haley Evans and I had gone through life and death together, so we naturally got together and became boyfriend and girlfriend. She used to always tease me, but it was just a way to get my attention. The shop's business was booming and I also saved some money. Not long after graduating from college, Haley Evans and I decided to get married. I asked her where she wanted to go for her honeymoon, abroad or in the country, and she smiled slyly. I want to stay in Wanfeng residence for a few days. Wanfeng residence? I shuddered. Isn't that where the female ghost appeared? Are you out of your mind? Going to that haunted B&B for our honeymoon? I blurted out. It's no longer haunted there. The new owner said that suite has been occupied all the time. Haley Evans retorted. The previous owner of Wanfeng residence had passed away, and the new owner had redecorated all the rooms. The price of that suite had also returned to normal, much more expensive than ordinary rooms. I don't agree. Besides, we've stayed there before, why go there again? If you want adventure, let's find a more exciting place. I refused flatly. You stayed in that suite back then, I didn't. I stayed in the room across from the stairs. And I'm not for adventure. It's because that room is where we experienced life and death. That's why I want to stay there once. Haley Evans insisted. I was simply speechless. It's really hard to figure out girls' minds. Besides, didn't that vengeful spirit take your brother away? I asked in confusion. Since Damian Blackwood left with the red-clothed female ghost, I initially carried the puppet with me, but later I gradually became too lazy to carry it. Anyway, I couldn't feel his soul power anymore, and it was useless to carry it. Seeing that I didn't agree, Haley Evans was about to get angry, so I had to compromise. Okay, I'll do as you say. When registering, she still took the lead and said, 1 room. I want the suite on the 5th floor. Walking into the room, I could no longer recognize it at all. The decoration was completely different. It's not the same as before, Haley Evans muttered. Of course it's different. People doing business must renovate. You insisted on coming, looking for a place where you experienced life and death. I imitated her tone and expression, but she beat me up fiercely. In the evening, we strolled around the village. After returning to the room, she kept teasing me. To be honest, staying in this room, I really couldn't control myself and almost lost my life. As night fell, I fell asleep groggily. Suddenly, that ethereal chanting sounded in my ears again. Startled awake, I opened my eyes and found the red-clothed female ghost standing at the door again, with a strange smile on her face. I quickly pushed Haley Evans next to me, but she didn't respond. The female ghost turned slightly, and I saw another man's soul standing behind her. He looked 7 or 8 points similar to me. It was Damian Blackwood, all grown up. He looked at me with a gloomy expression, with a smile that was not a smile. Ethan Sinclair, did you forget that you have a twin brother? Why didn't you come back to find me? You don't even carry the toy my maternal grandpa gave you anymore. I was speechless for a moment, not knowing how to answer his series of questions. I gave you my life when I was born. 3 years ago, I lied to her and saved your life again. I saved you twice, but you abandoned me. The red-clothed female ghost sneered aside. None of the living men are good. I didn't carry the puppet with me because I knew Damian Blackwood's soul was no longer on it. But I had never thought about going back to Wanfeng residence to find him. I thought that he was better off with a mom than with me, his so-called brother. After all, I had done nothing except carry the puppet with me. I didn't think I was really being a brother. But the Damian Blackwood in front of me obviously didn't think so. You owe me so much. It's time to pay me back. He smiled horribly and walked towards me with the red-clothed female ghost. We are twins. Why should I stay in the underworld while you live a happy life in the Yang world? Damian Blackwood, what do you want? Do you want me to pay you back with my life? I roared. A triumphant smile appeared on Damian Blackwood's face. The next second, Haley Evans suddenly sat up from the bed and strangled my neck tightly. The female ghost had possessed her. Through Haley Evans' mouth, she shouted, "You beast! You and that slut! I want you to die a horrible death." Her obsession was still deep, and she still couldn't distinguish between life and death. In this suite, my wife was trying to strangle me to death, and my brother was sneering aside. "Brother, how does it feel to be killed by your own wife? I also want you to taste the feeling of being forgotten by your closest person." Haley Evans was extremely strong after being possessed, choking me almost to suffocation. Damian Blackwood really wanted my life. His obsession was too deep. We were clearly separated by Yin and Yang at birth, but he had always regarded me as his brother. It wasn't until I stopped carrying him that he became resentful. When I was about to run out of breath, I finally touched the yellow talisman under the pillow. Fortunately, because Haley Evans insisted on coming to Wanfeng residence, I had prepared some 6 armor Yin-Yang talismans in advance. I put the Yin-Yang talisman on Haley Evans' forehead and chanted the ghost exorcising incantation. The female ghost screamed and escaped from Haley Evans' body. I caught the fainting Haley Evans and put her on the bed. "You and this female ghost are surrounding me together? Don't force me to use talismans on you too," I said coldly to Damian Blackwood. "Go ahead and try. I've been with our grandpa since I was little. I know these tricks even better than you do," Damian Blackwood scoffed. "Ethan Sinclair, I'm tired of the underworld. It's time for me to play in the Yang world." Damian Blackwood's soul rushed to my physical body, and I watched helplessly as he lay down. The next second, I sat up in bed, my eyes opening slyly. We are indeed twins. This body fits me perfectly. I feel like this is my body. He stretched his arms out, joyfully saying that. Then he reached out to Haley Evans. "I'm not interested in her, but she's just right to practice on, so I can get familiar with your body." Damian Blackwood leaned closer to Haley Evans, kissed her sleeping face, and revealed a sinister smile. I was utterly enraged. I ignited a 6 armor Yin-Yang talisman and recited the ghost exorcising incantation. Damian Blackwood snapped his fingers, and before the talisman could burn out, it extinguished. "My soul is in your body. We are twins. Do you think one talisman can drive me away?" Occupying my body, Damian Blackwood stood up from the bed, and the female ghost slammed me to the ground. He looked down at me. "Ethan Sinclair, the life I once gave to you, I want it back." I chuckled softly. "Gave? Damian Blackwood, you didn't give anything. You just couldn't outdo me while still in the womb." I grabbed the fruit knife from the table and stabbed at the me in front of me. The crimson blood dripped onto the floor. "Ethan Sinclair, are you crazy? Just to prevent me from getting this body?" Damian Blackwood looked at me in disbelief. I dipped the knife in my blood and drew the runes again on the 6 armor Yin-Yang talisman, loudly reciting the ghost exorcising incantation. When my grandpa gave me the puppet, but the expression on his face was filled with sorrow. "Brother, I just wanted you to keep carrying me. You didn't come to find me, so I had to come find you." With that, Damian Blackwood completely vanished. Seeing Damian Blackwood disappear, the female ghost rushed at me like a madwoman. I trapped her in the talisman array and recited the extradition incantation, dispersing the female ghost as well. "Let go of your obsession. It's better to enter the cycle early." After that, I didn't mention what happened at Wanfeng residence to Haley Evans. I lied and told her the wound on me was just a small cut from the fruit knife. After returning from Wanfeng residence, Haley Evans' stomach grew larger and larger. I thought she had been possessed by the female ghost and, like Tiffany Hayes, had a bizarre pregnancy, so I tried to find a way to help her draw it out. However, Haley Evans acted as if nothing had happened. 3 months later, she was diagnosed as pregnant. By the timeline, it indeed coincided with the period of our honeymoon. 6 months later, Haley Evans gave birth to a boy. I was certain this was my son, but remembering that night when Damian Blackwood pointed to Haley Evans' belly before he vanished, I still felt a bit creepy. I secretly took the child's sample for a DNA test without Haley Evans knowing. When I got the report, I was nearly in despair. While the test sample matched my genes highly, it didn't fully conform. It indicated a familial relationship but not a father-son one. How is that possible? I had mingled with the Yin-Yang world but also believed in modern scientific testing technology. I applied for further DNA testing, collecting samples from different cells in my body, including hair, skin, and reproductive cells, to analyze the genetic sequence of my son and me. When I received the test report, I was even more puzzled. The samples carried 3 sets of DNA, 2 of which showed a parent-child relationship, while the others were just related. The technician at the testing center informed me that the director wanted to see me. "Mr. Ethan, you are special. You carry 2 sets of DNA sequences in your body. This is scientifically termed the chimera phenomenon." Chimera? I asked in surprise. In layman's terms, during the embryonic stage, 2 embryos compete for nutrients. The winning one devours the losing one, and the genes of the defeated one parasitize the winning one, developing into an organ or system, the director explained. You have both your own genes and those of your twin brother in your body, so only by sampling your reproductive cells can you confirm the parent-child relationship. In 2002, there was a case in the US where a woman's newborn couldn't be confirmed through conventional cell sampling. My reproductive cells and my regular cells don't share the same set of genes? I found it hard to believe. Yes, theoretically, you are reproducing the genes of your twin sibling. The director confirmed my suspicion. I had Damian Blackwood's genes in me. The thought sent a chill down my spine. However, even though it was absurd, it was a phenomenon that could be explained by scientific theory and not merely a consequence of that night. As I said goodbye to the director and was about to leave, I recalled something he had said earlier. "Director, you mentioned nutrient competition in the embryonic stage? What if the twin sibling has already become a fetus? Could the genes still parasitize?" Such a chimera situation is rare. Once a fetus has developed in the mother's body, they are generally independent entities. The director shook his head. Cold sweat broke out on my body again. Damian Blackwood had already become a fetus, and he had been extracted as a stillborn. But it's not impossible. The scientific community is still exploring the chimera phenomenon. After all, the genetic sequences of twins are indeed similar. Twins are naturally chimera samples. The director continued explaining the chimera phenomenon with scientific theories, but I felt the sounds around me becoming increasingly ethereal. It was as if I heard Damian Blackwood's voice before he disappeared. "Brother, I just wanted you to keep carrying me. You didn't come to find me, so I had to come find you." This was what he truly meant in the end. So my twin doll brother was the real bizarre fetus. Confused, I walked out of the testing center and drove alone to Wanfeng residence. When I arrived, the place where Wanfeng residence stood had been leveled. A worker said it was going to be developed into a commercial complex. I called the boss to check the room I had booked during my honeymoon, but the number was out of service. I dialed Tiffany Hayes' number to ask about her situation. She said she was planning to invite me and Haley Evans to her wedding with Beau. She mentioned that if it weren't for us accompanying her to the hospital for checkups during college, her benign tumor might still have been mistaken for a pregnancy. When I got home, my mother and mother-in-law were playing with the child alongside Haley Evans. I asked my mother about my twin brother, and she said, "Where could I have a brother? I was born an only child." I asked Haley Evans about Wanfeng residence, and she said we went there during our wedding vacation because Tang Village was going to be closed for renovation, and she got angry at me for staying there. I promised to take her abroad next time. Moreover, the honeymoon was her first time visiting Wanfeng residence. My mind was in chaos. Could it be that everything before was just a dream? Impossible. Everything felt so real. The pain of the female ghost's knife hitting my shoulder, I still remembered vividly. However, I couldn't find any evidence to prove that they ever existed. In the end, I could only determine one thing from the DNA test report in my hand. My twin siblings' genes were parasitizing my body. I was a chimera with 2 sets of genes. I decided to trust science and no longer use Yin-Yang theories to explain these things. Otherwise, it would only lead to endless fear.